Brad Berg with Encompass Purpose. We have Jason Crary here today. Jason is no stranger to addiction, and I'm going to just let him start out with telling his own story here.
Yes, thank you for having me on. It started when I was a lot younger than most normal people, or most people, I would say. My addiction started when I was 9 years old. It was started off with drinking and marijuana. And I had an older brother that influenced me with friends, his friends. They would influence me. This was back in the 80s, early mid 80s. So, my parents would go out, as most parents did back then. They'd go out drinking or friends' houses or something. Um, and I'd felt most of my young life, what I remember of it, um, there was a lot of feeling of being lost. And I grew up in a town that it wasn't small, but we were very desolate from our neighbors and from other people. And so, what we had to do was basically climb trees, build forts, bonfires, and uh, kind of cause problems. From there, once I got into the alcohol and the weed, I really discovered that I liked feeling abnormal. There was an abnormal feeling about it, of course. And at that age, I really liked the feeling. I felt a sense of ease. I didn't have any worries. Even though I was that young, I still felt it. Let's see, by the age of 12, we were living in California. My dad had moved us, job promotion. We had lived in California, Northern California, and this was in 1988. And then they had arcades. We roller skated or we went to arcades for our Friday, Saturday night funs. Um, and so I had a regular dealer that I'd go to for the weed, just because he was the guy to go to. This one particular time he didn't have any weed, but he had cocaine. I'd heard about it, didn't really know anything too much about it, just what I'd seen on TV and what I'd heard from other people. And he asked me if I would like to try some, and I said, yeah, sure. So went into the bathroom. I did a line and uh, immediately fell in love with it. I mean, it was like the best thing in the world because I felt like I was on top of the world. I could do anything. I was very productive, even back then. And so uh, he sold me a bag, continued to use, uh, started veering away from the weed per se, just because then I'm like, well, shoot, weed, it just puts me to sleep and makes me want to eat a whole bunch. Cocaine, shoot, I don't want to eat at all. It's cheap, as far as the not eating, and I can do anything I want to. And I stay up all night long, which that was great. So I did that. Did that for 2 years. Um, Snorted it, ate it. Uh, I did. I learned what a hot rail was. Did a hot rail at the age of 13. By the time I got to 14, I think there was if I remember correctly, there was a crisis going on with the cocaine market. Uh, I was too young to really understand it, but I just heard something about it. So cocaine was kind of scarce. So I don't know how this ended up happening, but heroin was pretty big as far as you could get it. Like the accessibility was there, and so uh, he introduced me to heroin. He said, "Hey," he goes, "I have this." He goes, "It's mixed between kind of like cocaine and weed." I said, "Okay." I was like, "Well, how is that?" He says, "Well, if you stay up and like if you stay moving, um, you shouldn't have any problems with falling asleep. But if you sit," he goes, "it's what's called the nods." He said, "You'll nod out." I said, "Okay, well, I don't want to do that, but I'll try the heroin. I mean, I have an addictive personality. I'll try anything. Doesn't matter." So I did. It was black tar, which was weird. It was black tar heroin, and down there they usually get the brown powder. Um, Well, for some reason, he had tar. I think he went to Seattle or something. Anyways, I melted it down. I snorted it. He told me how to do it. I snorted it. I was like, wow. I was like, this is a whole nother feeling. And I think what it was is I think a lot of it had to do with um, I got once I get used to something, whether it's drinking, drugs, whatever, um, it kind of becomes just like, okay, then I got to do more and more and more, just like anybody else. So I did the heroin, loved it. Uh, there was a day that I was over at his apartment. To picture his apartment was, it was probably built in the 70s and it still looked like the 70s. So I would say in 1988, no, 1989, it looked like a 70s apartment, shag carpet and everything, green, really run down, dingy, cigarette butts and ashes everywhere. Um, beer cans, needles, candles, because back then we didn't really have other types of utensils. We used spoons and candles to heat up the heroin, um, and cotton balls and all that kind of stuff. Uh, really dirty, smoky, smelling. And he said, "Well," he goes, "I want you to try something." He goes, "I think you're gonna like it." He goes, "You have that addictive personality, you know." And I'm 14 at the time, so I'm naive. He's kind of reading me through all the years and stuff. He's kind of reading the room per se. And he goes, "Well, I got a needle." He goes, He goes, "Why don't you try using a needle?" I said, "Well, okay." He goes, "What it does is it'll last longer. It goes straight to the bloodstream. It'll kick in a lot faster." I said, "Okay, let's try that." So he tied me off. He made it. I shot me up, and I was like, "Wow!" I mean, it was like instantly. And I think now I know, but I wished I would have known then, or would have thought about it. Is I have to learn to say no, because anytime I do something and it's really good, I love doing it, and that's what I want to do all the time. So then that became my new norm, was shooting up heroin. Fast forward a year later, 1990. My dad kind of suspected that something was going on. My dad didn't do drugs growing up or anything, but he knew all the signs of a lot of the drugs, like cocaine, what to look for, weed, what to look for, blah 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 blah, so on and so forth. And I think what it was is, in between of all these drugs, I would do acid and stuff like that, and I think some of those drugs kind of gave a vibe of, hey, he's on something, and especially the heroin. At 15, he sent me to a friend's house, saying that because I mean, we could check anything. I mean, we had phones, but I mean, there was no emailing, or I mean, there was email. Well, no, there was no emailing and all that. But I went to my friend's house. When I was going to my friend's house, my dad was searching my room. He found a dirty needle in my drawer, and had it sitting out on the counter when I got home. And he said, "What is this?" And he goes, "What?" He goes, "What is this, and what's in this?" I said, "Well, you know what it is." And I said, "And I don't know what's in it." He said, "Bull." He said, "What's in it?" And I, back and forth for a little bit. And then finally I told him, and he said, "Well," he goes, I can't have this kind of stuff in my house." And this was they had drug and alcohol treatments, but not for somebody that's 15 years old. Um, and uh, he uh he told me, he said, "Well," and a lot of the times, like, if you got in trouble, your parents would take the responsibility, had to take the responsibility. Um so uh he uh he said, "Well," he goes, "I'm gonna have to kick you out." He goes, "I can't have this here." He goes, and I had a little brother, and he was young. He was at the time getting ready to turn 8. He said, "I'm gonna have to you have to go." Um so 15, I'm figuring out how to live on my own. Uh, Lived on the streets. The first few months was really weird, because I'm, s- because at the time I'm in high school. I just started high school. So I'm in my freshman year, and I'm trying to figure out how to live on the streets. I had so much dumped onto me at a young age that, um, I'm surprised that I didn't end up taking my own life. Um, 'Cause it was a whole lot, I had so much responsibility dumped on me at that one moment. Lived on the streets for, let's see, 2 years out in the California area. It was Pleasanton outside of San Francisco. I lived on the streets. My dad got a job offer in Seattle, Washington, moved to Seattle. When he moved to Seattle, he moved me because he didn't want me in his house, but he also didn't want me 2 states away, um, living on the streets. He wanted me at least to be within an earshot away. So I moved, but I never moved into his house. I always, whenever I got there, he would give me a hotel room for a few days to kind of get my bearings and get myself together, and then I'd be right back out to the street. Um, Seattle was one of my major downfalls. I love Seattle, but that was one of my major downfalls. This was during the Kurt Cobain era, Nirvana, Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots, and stuff like that. And so there was a big drug epidemic with heroin and methamphetamine and crank out there. Um, did a lot of it, partied hard at a young age, lived on the streets, so it was like I'd couch surf and live on the streets. My place of living on the streets was underneath this bridge. I lived in Puyallup, Washington. While I'm doing all this, I'm still going to school. At this point, I'm in '92. I'm a sophomore, junior, somewhere in there because I graduated in '94. Um, and so uh, I'm juggling all of this, and I'm also juggling on top of that, trying to avoid people as far as having them know that I'm living on the streets. Uh, so did that for several years. Moved with my mom in '96, but I still continued to party. Fast forward to 2010. The entire time throughout all those years, I'm using. I had gotten married, had children. Still used in the hospital while my wife was pregnant, used in the hospital while she was giving birth, used. It didn't stop, and nothing ever stopped. While she was in the hospital after the kids were born, used. In 2011, she said it was it. We had moved out to Florida, because I had worked on a pipeline, natural gas pipeline, and let's see, I had gone to a friend's house that she knew, and started drinking and using. I was in the company truck, got into an accident. She was with me. I bailed. She stayed with the truck, took blame for it. Got fired from the job, but didn't go to jail, thankfully. Uh, in March of 2011, I had bought some cocaine from this girl that we both knew. She wasn't sure if I was cheating on her with that girl or not, but I wasn't. But bought cocaine. She found out. She got my daughter and said, I'm done with you. I'm done. All your addictions and all your lies and everything you've done, um, it's too much. She goes, it's just way too much. And so she left. 2012, I found out, I had gotten a phone call from my cousin's ex-wife. My mom committed suicide. She drank antifreeze. She was underneath the fridge for 3 days before state troopers found her. Um, and during that time, once I found out, to 2019, 2012 to 2019, I was a complete disaster. I was a hurricane. Um, I was shooting up grams and grams and grams of meth a day, or heroin, and sometimes mixing it with heroin, making speedballs. I was endlessly shooting cocaine. It was I was out of control. I had gotten a settlement. I had gotten injured. Got a settlement out in Seattle, um, and I got quite a bit of money. And when I did, uh, I ended up spending that on a lot of the drugs. Um, but overdosed probably 4 times, I would say, during that time. Um, uh, in 2016, I overdosed, went to the hospital, stayed there for about 4 months, 5 months.